My name is Helen Farnsworth, and with my husband Craig Farnsworth, we have produced this presentation dealing with Deco Perfume Ephemera. Deco is simply Art Deco, the period between World War I and World War II. Perfume is what we all know and love, self-explanatory. Ephemera is just something that was not necessarily meant when it was produced to be saved. The most obvious example of this is toilet paper. But ephemera can also be beautiful items, as you will see. As I mentioned, this is Art Deco is the style between World War I and World War II. The name is short for the exhibition that took place in 1925 in Paris called the Arts Décoratifs. In the 1950s, perfume historians began referring to this as Art Deco. So this is where the name came from, and it's just a shortened abbreviation for this time period. Art Deco is mostly symbolized or exemplified by its fine craftsmanship and rich materials, ebony wood, silver, mother of pearl, ivory, this kind of thing. But of course, in this presentation, we're dealing more with the paper items that reflect the Art Deco period. Art Deco was a pastiche of many different styles mixed together. It could be exoticism mixed with a foreign country, mixed with a fashion design as seen on the Rue de Pas in 1922. Here we have the slide showing the entrance to the Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs, Paris, 1925. And on the other side, you see this tower. This was actually designed by René Lalique. So we're going to enter into this exhibit in theory, and then the last slide of the presentation is going to exit that particular exhibit. I've already told you what perfume ephemera is, and here's a listing of the different kinds of items that you're going to see. Advertisements, almanacs, calendars, catalog covers, paper advertising fans, labels, magazine covers, photographs, playbills, postcards, powder boxes, sample and trade cards, and sheet music covers. Pochoir printing is a way of producing an ephemera item in very limited, high deluxe, artist-associated copies. When you get an ad from a magazine, it may be in the thousands of copies. A pochoir is usually less than 100, and it came from the artist's hand in a stencil-based technique. You all are familiar with stencils from grade school. This is how you made your greeting cards for Easter. You had a little outline of the bunny rabbit, and you did a little stencil around, and there's the little bunny rabbit, which you took home to mom. Anyway, pochoir is very high style, and as you will see in the next slide, one of my all-time favorite pochoirs. The lovely Deco lady with her long attenuated fingers is offering up her powder box to the sun. Well, why is she doing that? She's doing that because the powder, when put on her face, will give her a lustrous glow. It melts into her skin and gives her a tan. The artist's signature is in the lower right. It's Léon Bonnet. It is for the Carly Company. He was famous for the Bouquet Perfume Company. That's spelled B-E-A-U, capital K. This particular pochoir is made in France from 1924. This pochoir has been entered into this presentation because it shows quite clearly how the pochoir is achieved. You can see that it's on a rough rag-based paper and that the outline of the lady has been put in by the artist, whose name is J. Dory. This is from 1920. Then the pochoir applicators, the artists, have come through with the different colors, and you can see they haven't done a really high-quality job of registering these colors. This is not really a really deluxe or well-done pochoir. This is from Portugal, Lisbon, Portugal. This particular pochoir comes from a magazine called the Gazette de Bon Ton. It is for the Arley Company. The name of the fragrance is La Bohème. And you can see the fragrance, La Bohème, coming out of the bottle in waves as it goes up to the flapper's nose as she leans over to inhale her perfume. Again, the lovely attenuated fingers, and her hair is almost alive. 1916 is the date on this. This is a pochoir also from another magazine called the Journal des Dames et des Mondes. These are carnival costumes. The one on the left is a gentleman's costume as tobacco. The one on the right is the woman dressed as a perfume bottle, and her hair is put up as a stopper. It's kind of fabulous the way it's done. This is from 1920, and it's called L'Ombre du Poète, is the name of the fragrance in the perfume. This particular pochoir comes from a German magazine. It is called Der Stil, obviously the style. This is for the Karl and Company of Nuremberg, Germany. The fragrance is Saphira, and the one particular Egyptian slave is offering up the bottle to his mistress on a tray, and you can see the Saphira bottle there. And it's kind of been done pseudo hieroglyphics. It's not, it's very much of the time period, and again, something exotic. This is the time of King Tut, and everyone wanted to be Egyptian. 1924, the artist is Kruschner. Now, moving from pochoir prints, we're going to Deco Perfume advertising. Now, as I mentioned in the pochoir prints, they were also always done in rather low production runs. Printing processes, like for magazines, were in large editions. This is an ad for the Mysticum Perfume Company. The name of the company is Schurk. It's German. The artist here is Hal Pfeiffer. This is a particular famous graphic in perfume design. You'll see perfumes, this used in perfume ads many times. There's a famous perfume bottle by Godet that has the lovely lady clustering the flowers up under her chin as she's inhaling the aroma of the perfumes. The Mystery of Flowers, 1925. Again, Austrian company from Vienna, or Vienne. This is the Miami company, perfume company, and you see the line at the bottom. Again, the attenuated fingers of the lady and the exoticism she's got her Asian parasol and she's dressed up in a kimono. But of course you know perfectly well that she's European with her blonde Marcel curls. 1924. This is an American company, even though it tries to sound like it isn't. And they're so sure that you're going to have trouble pronouncing this name, Luyties, that in all their ads, they tell you how to pronounce it. And it's pronounced Liotes. This company was founded in 1853, but perfumes came out about 1916. This particular ad's for about 1920. The name of the fragrance is Frivolie. This is often called, mistakenly, Lalique. Why? Because it's frosted French glass. We all know that. But it is unsigned, and we don't know exactly who did the ad. We don't know who did the glass. This ad is included here for one reason and one reason only. It documents a very hard-to-document perfume bottle. In other words, Jaspy by Murodata. This is the urn shape with the handles, mid-range on the upper right. The circle in the center is a very famous Deco artist's design. This is Darcy, and he did a lot of wonderful Guerlain ads in the period. This is 1922. The original price of the Jaspy perfume in this ad is $8.75. Here we have the Dewberry Company, English company. Dewberry is famous for using many imported high-quality French glass items. And you see in the ad the tiny little Viard bottle. This is for Garden of Karma. And the artist here is Hudson from 1917. This is one of my all-time favorites. I guess they all are, but this is a particular favorite, shall we say. This comes from 1926. The perfume company is Neige de Séville. The name of the perfume is Reine de Paris. In other words, Queen of Paris, and isn't she wonderful? And you can see her on the label of the bottle she's holding, and of course the waves of perfume. She's in ecstasy. This particular design is so famous among the French that they call this Les Petites Femmes of Maurice Meilleur, the name of the artist. She is the perfect flapper. This one takes a little explanation. This is out of a German magazine. It dates to about 1925 to 1930. The name of the company is Gerhardt and Tetto. I'm having trouble saying that. Anyway, they were a label printer, And they wanted to tell you how absolutely wonderful, what wonderful labels they could make. And they say at the top, and my German is non-existent, so I'll render it in English. It's all kinds of labels supplied. And who have they supplied on this metal label that is actually tipped into the magazine? Why, it's Josephine Baker, and she's holding a toy elephant in her hand. This design is a well-known photograph at the period of Josephine Baker. This perfume bottle never existed. The label only exists in this format. But they have shown you, gee, we can take this photograph and turn it into this high-quality, dimensional Art Deco label. And this is what we can do for you as a perfumer. Another type of ephemera occurs as perfume fans. During this period of time, many perfume companies put out paper fans that advertised, and were, of course, at that time, were scented with the perfume that's mentioned on the back of the fan. Of course, the scent no longer exists in most cases. Here we have, for Marcel Guerlain, not the big Guerlain, the other Guerlain, and it is for Masque Rouge. I needed to advance the slide. Here we go. Okay, here is Marcel Guerlain's Masque Rouge. You see the nude, and she's tickling the fawn under the chin. Kind of a delightful little graphic there. This particular example is signed by M. Cassard. The printer in this case is J. Gane, or Gane. I probably Gane. This is important to note here that this is the... I got crossways. These are perfume fans. In other words, they were originally put out by perfume companies, and when they were originally issued, they were perfumed. Today, that perfume is usually gone, but the fan oftentimes can remain, although their condition sometimes is rough on them. They were really used and abused, and any fan is precious. Now, a fan, per se, is a half circle. You open it up and it's a semicircle, but by the time we get to the Deco period, they wanted something different. They didn't want to look like the same old fan. So these, the shape of these fans was called the balloon shape, and you see here in this particular slide. This is for Marcel Guerlain, not the famous Guerlain, the other Guerlain company, for Masque Rouge, Red Mask. J. Gane was the printer, and the artist was M. Cassard. 1927. This is another perfume fan. This one is fairly rare. I know of two others that do exist. This is the Vigny Company, or De Vigny in this period of time. They later dropped the de and just became known Vigny. Gollywog. Now the Gollywog's face is hidden among the roses there, right under the sign saying Vigny. And on the back of the fan is all the different scents done by Vigny. And I can date this to 1930 by the names of the scents. I know which years the scents came out. This is called a tagged shape. Again, not the regular semicircle. L. Vogel is the printer, and it's from about 1930. This is an example of how I even know who the person is on the fan. The person on the fan is Nijinsky, the famous ballet dancer, Russian ballet dancer of the Diaghilev Company. Here he is dancing his role as the Blue God. And if you look very carefully, you can see in the Blue God's hand is a bottle of perfume. What perfume is it, you might ask? Well, this is the IPBA Perfume Company for the Gibera. This is again the balloon shape. The designer of the fan was Gilles Delat, comes from 1925. Another fan, in this case, I also know who this is. This is a portrait. Now we're going into powder boxes. This particular powder box is rather obscure, even though there's words on it. It says at the bottom it is Poudre Riche, rice powder, for the Deauville Company. Now, I'm of the opinion at this time that this is just a phonetic spelling of the town Deauville, but I have not a very firm idea about that. The name of the company is the Delamar Company of London and Paris. There's no data, no date, but isn't it wonderful as the little Deco femme puffs her little marabou powder and it kind of shatters, shakes powder all over her. Another powder box. This one is for the De La Prée Company. The name of the fragrance on the powder and the name of the event pictured on top of the powder are one and the same. This is Réveillon. Réveillon is simply New Year's Eve. This is when all the little jazz babies went dancing across the streets of Paris celebrating New Year's Eve. And you can see the Perrault with his arms around two lovely ladies, the black banjo player, a ballerina, another Perrault, and two other fancy dressed ladies. This is from the 1930s era. I do not know who designed this, but this is such a high style, wonderful example. Anyone would be pleased to have it in their collection. Le Parisien. This is Choisy Le Parisien. This is the lady dressing to go out. You can see she's, the parts that are most important are put out in red, and she's looking at herself in the mirror, and her maids on both sides are helping her put on her jewelry and powder her face before she goes out, and perhaps other parts of her body. This particular high style box is undocumented. There is no data on this. 3 inches round. That's why you collect ephemera, because this is the only way you have data on this particular company. The Maranello Company. Now here's an American company. They were two-pronged in their approach. They had beauty salons throughout the United States. They also had beauty colleges. Ruth Maurer was the founder. That's M-A-U-R-E-R. This is from about 1922, and you can see the wonderful Deco silhouette faces going around the top of the box. 2 3/4 inch. Aha! I know I said they're all my favorite, but this one is one of my all-time favorites. This is Miss Mary, and she's a poudre rice, again, powder, rice powder. Again, the Deco lady with the drooping fingertips holding the drooping blossoms. And what does she show as her hairstyle? Well, this is the famous gammon haircut, made famous by the Louise Brooks of a silent screen actress. There's no data on this particular box, and it's undocumented. Now we're getting into some of the labels and the surrounds. This is 2 different box tops, powder box tops, and the surrounds to go with them. On the left, we have a lady, she's coming out of the snail's shell. This is obviously a fantasy. So wonderful. The graphic is just dynamic. Nothing like this, I think, in the world of powder box and even art design. Wouldn't you think we would know who did this? Wouldn't you think we would know who it was done for? We don't. My best guess currently is that the company was perhaps Chambéry, which they're not very much known about Chambéry. This is about 1931. The other side is another equally obscure powder company, A. Bailey out of France, and the name of it is powder, Messalina. And who exactly was Messalina? Messalina was the wife of the Emperor Claudius. She did not come to a good end. Now we're getting into another area of ephemera with the Deco sample and trade cards. George Limon was essentially an essential oil maker. He made a few perfumes in the time period we're talking about. And here we have an example of one of his powders, which is scented with one of his perfumes, a tout coeur. And the Deco lady with her oversized puff is sitting on an oriental carpet. And the powder boxes are flying in all different directions. This is probably from about 1928. The other one is for Saucy Frere. Now, the Chypre is the name of the scent that has this card. I know particularly that this particular graphic was done by a certain artist, and I think you can, if you blow it up hard enough, large enough, you can see that it is signed. But I know that this is J.G. Domergue. The draped nude with all the flowers in front of her front is more or less of his trademark. This is a famous example of something that is important in the history of perfume. Most perfumers were men. Henrietta Gabilla was not. She made the juice, she did the whole 9 yards. And here we have a design for her for a sample card for her scent, Gardenia de Gabilla, and also the box top for the same powder of that scent. And you see that the detailing on the box top is much finer quality, and she's playing the children's game of Loves Me, Loves Me Not, from about 1929. Now, another form of perfume is perfume sample cards. We still have these today, although they're less popular. On the left, we have the Henri Payan Company from Grasse, Nice la Nuit. This is the Pierrot at night with a mandolin. I don't know who designed this, unfortunately. This is from 1927. The other side is quite a bit later, 1940. This is an American company, Robert Perfume. But he went to Paris to have his printing done. This particular card printed in Paris, shows the femme spritzing herself with Robert Oriental Delicat. Another types of ephemera are calendars and almanacs. Here's an almanac from 1931. Now, I must explain what an almanac is. It's not our Poor Richard's Almanac that we're most familiar with. This kind of an almanac was produced to be a purse item for women to carry, and they are important in Roman Catholic countries like Italy, Germany, France, and some were made for England as well. And why they were important was they showed feast days and days of holy obligation back in the time when this was most important for Catholics. They had a theme, these almanacs. Each year when one came out, they would take a certain idea. And in 1931, for the Lepet Company of Bologna, Italy, it's Pierrots and Carnival costumes. So that's the cover of that particular. And then here is the centerfold, and we have the Pierrot and his lovely lady. What lovely legs she has. Very, very Art Deco. This is a famous Art Deco Italian artist called Busi from 1931. The Italians did very high quality printing, and some of the most delicious stuff in the world is printed in Italy as far as ephemera goes. Another calendar. This is called the Mysterious Egypt. It's for the Santanini Company, scented in Amber de Veau. It has very heavy gilt that doesn't really show up in this image. When you take pictures of this kind of thing, the gilt kind of bleeds out, and you need to hold the item in your hand to actually see the heavy gilt on it. This is Sacred Dance, is some of the scented with, 1924. This is another almanac for the E. Fontanella Company of Milan, Italy. It is perfumed in the scent Colibre, which is simply hummingbird. The theme of this particular little almanac from 1928 is the cinema, and there are different illustrations of famous movie stars. The one I've chosen here is one that we would all recognize as Gloria Swanson, the great and good friend of John F. Kennedy's father. Another almanac, this is for the Koffler Company from Padua. You'll see, again, the spritzing of the lovely femme in front of the mirror, and the theme here is actually Mahjong. So that's the name of the scent, and that's the theme. The artist here, again, is Busi, very high-style Busi items. This is from 1926. You'll see in these, just a short few of these almanacs, that many of them are companies we aren't that familiar with. Consequently, having the ephemera documents the company. This is one we're more familiar with. This is Bertelli from 1935. It is scented with Rose Bertelli, and the theme here is games. And we have mahjong, chess, dominoes, dice, cards, crossword puzzle. And this is very, what I call hard style deco. You can see it's very non-soft edged is what I call it. You know, it's a little bit later in the deco school. This is actually a calendar that hung in a perfume shop in Spain. This is the Perfumery Belgar. It was printed in Barcelona, and you see the Spanish Pierrette holding a lantern. It's signed illegibly, I can't figure out, something like Comper. It's from 1935. Now we're going into the photographs. Now there are many photographs available, and you can get them all the time online. And as more and more newspapers go under, their archives are being sold item by item online. In purchasing Art Deco photographs, you want to be sure and get the original, not a replica, not a reprint, not a high quality repro or any of that nature. This is actually from 1937. And it shows a little boy giving a bottle of perfume to a prize winner. And the lady on the right is Gertrude Lawrence, she of Hollywood, stage fame on Broadway. This is, again, from 1937, and the woman who has won this $750 bottle of the Infanta perfume by Prince Machiavelli. I think you can look very closely and see that the little guy has the Prince Machiavelli crown on his turban. Here we have the Lindy girls. After Charles Lindbergh flew the Atlantic, everyone wanted to get on the bandwagon and sell things that were associated with Lindbergh. And of course, one of the things they sold was perfumes. Nipola, out of St. Paul, Minnesota, sold Lindbergh perfume called Lucky Lindy. This is a perfume that was actually appeared in that particular newspaper in 1928, the Nipola Company. This is fun. This is from the MGM archives. This is the actress and very young Joan Crawford. And I think that the little detail and description on the back is quite delightful. What it says verbatim is, Joan Crawford shows us a queer-shaped bottle of perfume. Well, we're perfume collectors. We don't think it's queer at all. We know that it's Pleville, La Secrète de la Perle, from 1928. These are Deco catalog covers. On the left is, again, for the Armand or the Bouquet Company. The artist here is Saskia. And she's a very high-style femme, again, with the fingers. Notice the fingers, and she's glancing over her shoulder. The attenuation and the stylization, quite wonderful. On the right, we have an example of the Elizabeth Arden Beauty Box booklet. It is signed WE, which I don't know what that indicates. Again, very high style. From 1923, and I had mentioned earlier how the gold ink really doesn't show up when it's reproduced. That background is all a very wonderful, dull, burnished gold. Here we have the Turn to Beauty catalog for the Marinello Company. This is written by Emily Lloyd, and the illustration is a fad of the time called the Fadeaway Girl. She's not all there, but you still realize that she is a girl, and you see her in your mind's eye. Inside, they show pictures of the Lucky Elephant perfume, or Blue Amaril. On the other half of the slide is for the Woodworth Company of New York. Woodworth had 3 scents at this time, Viguet, Caresse, and Fiancé. They sold out to the Bourgeois Company shortly after this, so this is kind of their last gasp here. And we see the fantastic flapper. She's clothed in the tail of the peacock, which becomes her cloak. And this is Charles Monertz, is the artist. Here we have the Lee Company, not a well-known company, but a perfume company. This is more, hard-edged Art Deco. The lady is very stylized, and you see all the geometric patterns and everything that along the baseline are all her perfumes. Now, this is why we collect this kind of catalog. Inside, they list 7 toilet water scents and 5 perfumes. And then there's this one little throwaway line with no picture, which I would love to see. It's called Lee's Concrete Perfume Amber Neil Cloisonné Golden Box. Wouldn't I like to see that? And since this is a company that thinks well of itself, it has a motto in the upper left. And of course, being a motto, it's in Latin. It's Probus Peritus, and that just means we are upright and prepared. Now we're getting into the Deco labels. And of course, as collectors, we realize that many of the things that appear on the internet are not for perfume. SAVON is soap. It's always soap. Anyway, in this particular case, it's soap that is perfume with a perfume that is Lambert Dedeli, which is Babani. Okay, Babani is a famous fashion house, perfume house from the 1920s. Many of the famous actresses of the day went there and had their clothes designed by Babani. But in this particular case, we have the Odalisque, or the Oriental Maiden again. And she's dressed in that wonderful see-through top, which shows off some of her jewels. This is from 1921. The designer is Serge Beaupré. Here the labels are for Nissan Paris. I don't know what the label is for. I just think it's wonderful. It may be a soap. It may be a perfume. It's not documented. There is an example in the Andorran Museum. If you ever get a chance, go look at the Andorran Museum. Wonderful source of information. The other side is for a Grasse perfume company in the south of France, where all the essential oil companies were. Henri Payen. This is what is known as a die-cut label. In other words, something that is in the shape of something. not a square or an oval or a round. This illustrates Mousse Fleurie, one of 9 different floral names. Again, high relief, very high gilt, 1920. Here we have 2 different labels showing Spanish influence. On the one side is for the Volnay company. The scent is Cachucha. The Draguer Printer Company produced these. And in collecting ephemera, a lot of times it's important to know the printer because some of the high-style printers like Draguer are on the other side. The Senate Company produced just fabulous, wonderful designs. On the other side is also a Spanish theme. This is called Maravillas de España, Marvels of Spain, and you see the Alhambra. This was a tipped-in label from the Revue de Marque from 1928. The excitement about turning in, buying one of these magazines is opening it up and finding one of these labels just as the day it was made. No damage, no oxidation, just gorgeous. May 1928 on that. Now we're getting into Deco covers, sheet music, and playbills. This is for the Vivado Company and their scent Mavis. It's called the Irresistible Waltz. That's the front of the piece of sheet music and the back of the piece of sheet music. So on the left, you see the high-style Deco Maiden, and on the back, you see the Art Nouveau Maiden, both for the same company. The cover is designed by Frederick Packer. This is his well-known artistic style, and once you've seen one of Fred Packer's, you'll recognize it forever after. You see the bottle as a jet of bottle on the back as a water jet. Is that okay? Okay, when you go to a play in Paris, you can buy a playbill, just as you can in the United States. In this time period, though, the playbill came to you and it was sealed shut. And it was sealed shut with, ta-da, a perfume label. So in order to get into the playbill, you had to tear the perfume label. So consequently, you have basically ruined the piece of ephemera by purchasing the playbill. But in any case, here we have Icart is the artist here from 1926. The women are going along the beach, and the lady's hat replicates the wings of the gulls. Mimosa by Molinard is the name of the perfume label. Again, this is the same idea, again by Icart, again by Molinard. There is a card that is actually tipped into this playbill. You see where the little line, the dotted line, it was actually sewn into the playbill for Abenita, which you use to perfume your cigarettes. The other side, the label you would have had to split. This is actually a double label, so you see the entire label there, front and back. And this is Amata by Rigaud from 1925. When you get a playbill, of course, you're going to get a date, which is one of the great things. This is an American company. The reason this is in here is twofold, because I like the particular artist of the cover of this, and he's a very famous Art Deco artist, Georges Babillet. This is from 1922. When you went to the plays in this country in this time period, all your playbills, almost 99.99% of the playbills, on the inside cover or on the back cover had a color Dear Kiss ad. Here. In this particular case, each of these are signed. I don't remember. Okay, this is AH. I'm not sure who that is. But anyway, here we have a very romantic, soft, what I call soft core Art Deco design. Kiss ad. Inside another playbill. Okay, this one says Christmas 1922. This is at 63 Champs-Élysées interior, showing the holiday crowds for Christmas, and they're all in the Kirchhoff perfume shop buying Dear Kiss perfume. People have trouble with this, DJER-KISS. They try all sorts of different ways, but the company over and over again in each and every one of their ads says it's pronounced DEAR-KISS. This one is John Gatta is the artist. Now we're getting into Deco magazine covers. Isn't this delicious? She's sitting out and she's sitting in the arbor. She's holding up the wisteria to smell it. The colors are replicated and throughout. It's just a very active, colorful Art Deco printing job by the Imbert Printing Company, an anonymous designer. This is no date, but it's about 1928. This is the front cover of Fashions of the Hour, and Fashions of the Hour was the house publication for Marshall Field Company of Chicago. This is from June 1923. When I first got this, I thought she was riding a surfboard, but no, she's riding this very stylized Art Deco fish, the flapper. The wave is almost an animate object here. The back of this is set here for you to admire. We're really distressed with the fact that it has to say toilet preparations because we could see so much else if that weren't there. The lineup of perfume bottles are just wonderful. Some of them are Bichera, Guerlain, Murray, Dorset, Houbigant, Racine, Caron, Godet. And of course, the most important one is the tall one next to the Rouge lamp in the center, and that is L'Angers, Blue Rose. And the reason that's important is that's because Marshall Field made that particular perfume. And for you perfume lamp people, there's quite a few perfume lamps here too. Again, June 1923. This artist is the Reeses. This is the last of the magazines, and this is for La Vie Parisienne. This particular artist is an Italian who spent all of his career in France, Umberto Brunelleschi, from 1933, and this particular image has a name. It's called Perfume d'Espagne. This particular magazine is what I call soft core. This is the kind of thing you could buy as a tourist in Paris. It wasn't really too over the top. I mean, most of their ladies were mostly dressed. Some were semi-dressed, but it's the kind of thing that a tourist could take home as a souvenir. Again, Umberto Brunelleschi. Now we have some Deco postcards and then other things that just didn't fit into any category particularly. This is Paul Poiret's perfume, Toutes les forêts, in other words, all over the forest. This is the bottle and the box, 1928. This is part of a series. I believe some of these were inserted into playbills. I think you could buy them as a set of postcards as well. I don't know who designed that. I know I keep saying they're favorite, but this is one of my all-time favorite postcards. Carlo Erba had a company in Italy called the Giviemmi, Jean Viemi. The artist here is Sergio Tontano. The postcard is from 1925. She is holding a bottle of the fragrance Contessa de Alfura. And the bird, the peacock, of course is a peacock or a bird of paradise, is leaning over her to go smell the bottle. On the other side, we have the Neil Day Company, and it's called Les Saisons de Nanette. The artist is Miche, and she's dressed up, as you can see. Her skirt is the bottom of the powder box, and her parasol is the top of the powder box. Again, 1920. This particular postcard is for the J.G. Mousson Company of Frankfurt, Germany. The artist is illegible, and I can't tell you who it is, but it is signed. The name of the fragrance is Tai Tai. And you can see the bottle is held in the Buddha's hand as the lovely flapper kind of melts into him and looks at him. About 1930 on this. This is part of a series of postcards. The artist is Van Dock, and despite his name, he is Italian. The perfume company was Vizette, and they are Parisian. There's probably 10 cards in this series, and they all have a theme, although many different ways of expressing it. But in each and every theme, it's the idea of basically woman power. I am woman, hear me roar. Look at here. She's got him at her feet, and he's offering her everything in the world he can think of. Money, jewels, flowers, and of course, Vizette perfume. London, 1921. These are Cinderella labels. Even though they look like stamps and they are gummed like stamps, they were never meant to frank letters. They were meant to be ornamental decorations on envelopes. And they were very fashionable at this time period. This is for the Lechner Company of Germany. They were designed by F. Rump from 1924. They represent two different perfumes for the Lechner Company, Rose Bon Ton and Aspasia. Aspasia is a name from Greek classical history. She was the great and good friend of Pericles. Now, These examples are collected and wanted to be collected as sets. And here is the entire set of the run of that particular Cinderella set. Well, I own stock in the Aries Perfume Company, and here's my example. Here we have a bridge set for 17. This is tallies and score pads. And again, with this, it doesn't come off as true because it's heavily in silver when you get the actual example in your hand. Some of the things that show up as kind of a gray blue are more silver. This is printed in the United States. This is from 1928. The company is Colgate. Yes, that Colgate company, but the scent is 17. On the left here is the Ramses powder box label top. It's a proof example, and you can tell it's a proof by the little X's there that are put there so that when you run through the printing press, you can get the colors lined up and they won't blur. This is a high quality printing job. The gold is in high relief and very elegant. On the other side is also for Ramses. I do not know what this is for. It's, again, a relief embossed. Silver, the silver ink is quite pretty. And when I first saw this and bought it, I paid a fortune for it. But they are quite available, as it turns out. And you can find them almost any day of the week on eBay. Not the one on the left, however. Here we have a slide from a book that is called, by collectors in France and other places, Les Bible. This is a book that discusses the state and the different perfumers and anything you could hope to want to know about the French perfume industry in 1925. And the reason it's called Les Bible is because it's giant, it's heavy, and it's numerously paged. And each of the pages have different kinds of things tipped in labels. They have pieces of cellophane tipped in. They have pieces of foil tipped in. It's a magnificent art book. The actual title of this is La Parfumerie Française et l'art dans la présentation. Okay, that's how come they call it Les Bible, because it's a lot easier to say that than Les Bible. When you can get a copy of this, you're going to pay in the many thousands of dollars. The artist here is Helen from 1925. This is one of the few slides that doesn't show a beautiful woman, but this is just so wonderful. I had to put this in here. This is the exterior of Perfumes d'Orsay on the Rue de l'Epas. This was designed by Sue et Mar, the famous designers at the time, 1925. As promised, here is the last slide out of Les Bible. It shows as it would have looked the perfumery section at the Art Deco exhibit in 1925. There were some 30 perfumers that exhibited here. And if you want to learn more about the perfumers, you can look in Kim's book on page 21, or you can also go to the Perfume Passage Museum, which I just finished seeing, and it is absolutely fantastic. Rusty and Jeff have put together the most magnificent thing, and they have replicated this simulated fountain by Lalique in the center. And if you were there on that day, you could have seen all the bottles there displayed. I'll read you a few of the names. Geldy, Fontanes, Lubin, Roussin, and Vibert. Rosine, pardon me. Racanet and Mallard were the architects here at this wonderful glass item.